Mr. John McConnell from San Francisco. And good morning, Mr. McConnell.
Good morning, Marjorie. It's a delight to be here.
Well, it's very, very nice to have you. I know that you had a wonderful idea. It's called A Minute for Peace. Is that right?
That's right.
And now I'm going to turn the microphone over to you and ask you to tell us all about it, please.
The idea of Minute for Peace is to have people all over the world take at least 1 minute each day to think about peace, each in their own way, but to join, to link their thoughts in a simultaneous moment that will be shared by people of goodwill all over the world. I believe that with this we can help create a climate that will be conducive to peace, and it will stimulate the actions and attitudes that are needed in the world today.
Would you say this is what one might call a connection of thoughts all over the world?
Yes, I like this idea of linking our thoughts. For instance, if you knew that at this very moment, people in other parts of the world, from South America to Africa to China to Russia to the far islands of the sea, that at this moment, as people were listening to a program, that each in his own way was thinking about peace intensively, I believe this would contribute to the attitudes and actions that would bring world peace. I might say, to go on and tell you about what Minute for Peace has done. This idea was suggested by me in San Francisco, and in fact, the story is, I think, rather interesting. I was having lunch with the manager of KCBS in San Francisco, Jules Dundies. He's also vice president of CBS Network. And he said he thought this idea had merit and they would like to do something about it. Then, right after that, of course, on the 22nd of November, President Kennedy was assassinated. Well, we decided to end the period of mourning for President Kennedy with a new dedication to peace through A Minute for Peace. And it was very exciting what happened. Leading figures, Archbishop McGuckin, Bishop Pike, Rabbi Fine, the President of the Chamber of Commerce, and others publicly supported the idea. And on December 22nd, just 3 days before Christmas, we had our Minute for Peace. And it stated that it's now such and such a time in San Francisco, and then it gave the time in other parts of the world. Time for A Minute for Peace, time to dedicate our thoughts and purpose to peace. Then we had a fine, eloquent statement by President Kennedy that he had given at the United Nations, urging us to work for peace and stressing the importance of peace at this time of world history. This minute was received very well. We had editorials in the local papers, and other parts of the world commented on it. So we passed a resolution in the city of San Francisco urging a daily, simultaneous Minute for Peace throughout the world. This was then further aided at the conference Pacham in Terrace. Then finally, at the anniversary, the 20th anniversary of the United Nations, we were able to have Secretary General U Thant, who had endorsed Minute for Peace, give the first regular Minute for Peace message. And Marjorie, I think it would be fine if at this time we could have your listeners hear this wonderful statement that he gave.
We live in a world of noise, yet our conscience is called the still small voice. As Dekamashol once pointed out, we all have within us a center of stillness surrounded by silence. Unless we heed our own conscience, we shall continue to be attracted by what is loud and garish and lose our sense of values. If there is no peace in the world today, it is because there is no peace in the minds of men. It is important, therefore, that all of us should determine to set aside some time each day to commune with ourselves, to talk with our own still small voices, to devote even 1 minute for thoughts of peace and goodwill.
That was wonderful.
Well, I again feel that we have an idea which, if it's picked up by you who are listening and then it becomes contagious and spreads around the world, that it can have an important effect on the course of world history. One thing that is important here is that in Minute for Peace, this is something non-political and non-partisan, we are especially asking each person to turn to his own inner voice and ask himself, what can I do for world peace? And this is, of course, the most important issue in the world today, and it's one that each of us, I know, are deeply concerned about. You know, Marjorie, I was thinking on my way over here, we are all, of course, tremendously excited and interested in what's going on out in space. The astronauts are, you might say, foreriders of our planet as it's plunging through the limitless miles of space. And here on this little globe, this little ball of rock and water, we have 2 billion little blobs of blood and flesh, people that have the same feelings and the same capacities as you and I do. We're very different in many ways, but then we think of the mind and soul of these 2 billion people, and we know that they feel pain, and they have hopes, and they have fears, and they want love. And this is true all over the world, but somehow our fear of one another or our lack of communication has prevented our really realizing the great potential, the great destiny of this planet that's moving on through space. I believe that by linking our thoughts, each of us in the best way we know, that we can see a transformation in the world, that it will encourage the best that is leading toward peaceful progress, and that the attitudes of goodwill and compassion and understanding that are so desperately needed can be stimulated. And I feel that through Minute for Peace there is a chance to achieve this.
Well, Mr. McConnell, I'd like to ask you this. How are you going about spreading the idea of this wonderful thought of yours? Are you traveling throughout the country to present this thought to the people of the United States? Because this is a big thought. I'm sure that many people believe in, I call it positive thinking, perhaps that's not very well put, in thinking strongly about things and having this minute of peace prayer within yourself at, say, a certain time. It's going to take quite a bit, don't you think, to get people to do that? Not that they wouldn't want to, but perhaps they're shy or reluctant, or of course we don't have a day set for us, do we?
No. Well, we incidentally we have designated each day certain times for Minute for Peace. In order to make this simultaneous all over the world, we have suggested 0300, 1100, and 1900 Greenwich time. Now, for instance, 1 Minute for Peace, the minute here in the New York area, 1900 Greenwich time, would be 3 p.m.
I see.
And this means that at 3 p.m., you who are listening, if you could happen to have a coffee clutch at that time and tune in to a radio station that is carrying a thought for peace at that moment, a thought that will stimulate your own thoughts, then you can link your mind with others in a Minute for Peace. I would like to urge those who are listening, if this rings a bell in your own inner consciousness or perhaps strikes a spark of interest in you, that you would immediately write a letter to this station urging that there be a daily Minute for Peace. And there are so many things that we can do. You know, we all want peace, but we don't really focus on this. We too many times are superficial or hypocritical when we speak of peace. But if we intensely think about peace, and then ask our conscience, what can I do for world peace? I'm sure that as we do this daily, all kind of things, each of us will do the things that will move in this direction. You know, right there, Marjorie, if I may add, that one of our troubles today is that the people of the world don't have a voice they can trust, that everyone can trust. But there is such a voice, and that's the voice of our conscience. And if we can get people all over the world to turn to their conscience for even 1 minute each day and ask ourselves, what can I do for world peace? Well, there are thousands, there are hundreds of thousands of things that need to be done to create the climate and the attitudes and the structure of a world of freedom and order. And this is a job for everyone. If we feel deeply about this, and if we act vigorously, if we think intensely, if we talk about peace, if we then go out into the world and do the things that our conscience tells us to do, I believe that this will become so contagious that all over the world there will be more and more of the actions and attitudes and thinking that leads to this great goal. We have one more tape with us, Marjorie, that will add to what I am saying. The second Minute for Peace recording was given by Dr. Melala Sekura in San Francisco at the 20th anniversary of the United Nations. He represented the world of Buddhists at the Convocation of World Religions. He is the founder of the Fellowship of World Buddhists and High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. Could we have that tape now?
Hatred does not cease by hatred. Hatred ceases only by love. So declared the Buddha 2,500 years ago. Till human hearts are filled with thoughts of love and compassion, there will be no real peace in the world. The mind has within it forces greater than those of the atom. If at a given moment, each day, 1,000 million minds would be simultaneously concentrated on a single thought, the thought of goodwill and peace, the power so generated could irresistibly move the leaders of men and those whom they lead. Conflicts and tensions will then disappear, and peace will reign over the earth.
Well, Mr. McConnell, what can we really do? I mean, what would you tell me, Mr. McConnell, to do?
Well, I would suggest to you that are at your homes at this moment that perhaps, if it's possible, you just stop and pause for a minute. If there's a member of your family there, I think it would be wonderful if you'd join hands. Think for a moment of the people all over the world who are desiring what you desire, and that is a world of peace and order. We might at the same time think of the blood of an American soldier or a Vietnamese girl that is oozing away at this very moment, the pain all over the world. I think we must feel deeply if we are going to do the things needed to bring peace. We might ask ourselves now, what can I do to help world peace? One thing you can do is think about Minute for Peace each day and get others to do it. Talk about it. Write to your station, speak to your minister, talk to your school teacher. And in doing this, we can stimulate a wave of purpose and will that will, through the power of goodwill, bring about the requirements that are needed all over the world today in striving for a peaceful world. This, each one of us can do.
Well, thank you, Mr. McConnell, very, very much for visiting with me on Woman's World. This has been a very serious thought, and I know that every one of us will hope to do the right thing and to have this Minute of Peace in our own family.
Thank you very much, Marjorie.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell.